Shoot, it switched it.
Yo, how's it going, y'all? This is Theo and Derek, your hosts for today's show, For the
How you
Heels of
doing?
Time. We have an interesting little switch of a subject today. Derek, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's not exactly going to be our traditional show, but it's the topic has such a commonality. We'll probably revisit it. We'll probably address just a few things that we want to, and then revisit it. But as it is, we didn't want to limit it down to one character either. Does that sound about right?
I think so. It's definitely going to be it's something that I've always liked. So, without further ado, we're going to present our little findings. And we're going to talk about oracles today. And that's not just straight oracles. You could say seers, prophecy seekers. I'm not gonna throw out all my thunder because I want to trick Derek.
Soothsayers, dreamers.
I'm not gonna trick Derek. He's too smart for my tricks. But
No, you've tricked me before.
not really. You've recovered faster than me. So we're gonna get going. This is gonna be the first little section is gonna be on seers, and it's literally Seers, like an actual seer. So they're
The
basically,
third eye.
yeah, pretty much. They have various techniques of divination. So you could call it walking some dreams. You could say actual visions. And there's different techniques that they can do. And this is pretty interesting to me because this is something that is worldwide. This isn't just Greek, Roman. You have some Norse, Hindu, Native American, Aboriginal. This is like everywhere across the world. All cultures have something of this back in the day, and even modern times we have fortune tellers and that kind of. They're still around, still in uh, modern culture too. So it's something that's never really gone away, which has always interested me. I always find that fascinating because everyone's always trying to say, "What's my fortune? What am I gonna do? How long am I
It,
gonna live?"
so it's like really persisted with us as a human race, so to speak.
Correct.
Uh, in our culture, so that makes sense though, right? You have this kind of desire to, oh, what's going to happen? Who's going to win the next big ball game?
Right.
What am I getting for
Yep.
Christmas?
Exactly. Exactly. So I always thought that was fascinating. So, yeah, it's in Babylonia, Egypt, Greek. A lot of times they would think about dreams and interpretation of the dreams and how to interpret them, what they mean. Are they warnings? Are they messages from the gods? How are they? What's the significance? Is it an omen? Is it something good? Is it something bad?
Mm.
Ancient Greece, man, everything was done with divine divination rather. Um, an army wouldn't go out unless you had good fortunes. If you went to your private oracle for your town or your area and you wanted to go to war with someone or you had a conflict, oh, Miss Oracle or Mister, um, is today gonna be a good day? Oh, the three birds just flew. Nah, it's not a good day. You may want to wait a couple days. You'd wait a couple days. Conversely, if they were like, nope, actually tomorrow's gonna be awesome for war and you're gonna be victorious, they'd march out now. Um,
So I take it the oracle may or may not have holy texts or sacred scriptures
no,
that they reference,
nope,
but but whether or not that's the case is what my point was going to be. Um, it's on them to interpret what they see.
correct.
So, right. So even if someone could vaguely say, well, okay, oracles look at the birds. Did they fly away? Did they come to the ground? And they make determinations off of that.
Yep,
You still would have to be like an actual oracle in order to make the right interpretation.
quote unquote correct. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Crazy thing is, just like there was a particular phone scam here in America about a call for your fortune, and you pay us, $1 a minute, and we'll tell your fortune. I'm not gonna say it because they got sued and got blasted off the.
Oh no!
It's now for entertainment purposes only, because people were actually ruining their lives because of it. Same thing happened in Greece, though. You could kind of bribe a oracle to make them have a proper divination. So it's not without a little bit of greasing of the palms too. You could kind of do that. So corruption runs deep everywhere. What can I say? So yeah, it is what it is. Now the funny thing is, a lot of people have heard of some of the oracles around. Delphi is one of them. Mm-hmm. Nobody really knows why they went into their trance-like state. There was also one in Italy. This one was funny. I'll tell you that story in a second. So some of the oracles were built on chasms, and from the chasms had interesting air. Let's put it that way. And you would breathe in the air, and really whoever was in there would really get messed up. So you'd actually see hallucinations, get high as a kite, potentially pass out, or you'd be which kind of looked like a trance-like state. So when people were talking, that's why it was a lot gibberish, and usually the oracle. Oh, go ahead.
So this is kind of come here to this sacred ground.
Yep.
And if you stand here long enough, you might see the future, or you might get a vision.
Right.
Well, there's this group in the Wheel of Time called the Shanchin,
mm-hmm.
and they have this wicked collar that they call an Adam, and they place that on what they refer to as Damani or domain or something, if the E is silent. And they test you, and whether or not you can channel, you will succumb to this leash, basically. Further, they test to see if you have the ability to see the future. And these Soldam control these channelers and force them to predict the future if they're able to. So it's kind of all right, here, put this on, do this test, do this trial, and see if you're able to see the future. So that's a foretelling is what they call it in Wheel of Time, but that's kind of like a trance. So yep. one of these versions of seeing the future, someone goes into a trance. Maybe they don't know what they're saying, but people around them hear it. Or so what's interesting, and like the Oracle of Delphi, I don't know the ins and outs. I'm not the expert, but I've heard it said that the person speaking gibberish, mm-hmm. who they're giving reverence to, they're not the one with the real power, though, because there's a second person that interprets what they say. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So last thing I'll say before I throw it back to you, in Wheel of Time, when you have a foretelling, you don't know what you said. Right? So you had a foretelling, but that's it. So if there's only one person around besides you, and you let's say they predicted, oh, you're going to be the next whatever and die. You can be you predicted that I'm going to be successful. You'd still die.
Right.
But you can do that, right?
Yep.
Okay. So thank you. I'm going to throw it back to you.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I was so a lot of times these oracles, if they were seeing things, wouldn't necessarily know what they were saying. And it would be open for interpretation. Or
interesting.
Or the funny part would be you would come, you'd give an offering of some sort, usually cash, maybe food or something, and say, hey, awesome Oracle Derek of Delphi or wherever, I really, really want to know if my crops are going to be good this year. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Derek takes a look. He's like, this money's good. In his head, he's like, oh, good. Let me ask my divine spirit. Oh, divine spirit, let me go for it. Is Theo's crop's gonna be good?
Right, hallelujah.
And you'd be like, ugh. And boogie woogie, zappity zappity, hippity hoppity doo.
Bippity boppity boo.
And Derek would say, oh, I'm seeing a vision of some plants growing. Oh, you will eat. Cool. Is that really vague? Hell yeah, that's vague. I could have one bean. I'm going to eat the bean. Therefore, a plant grew and I ate a bean. So that fortune was right. Conversely, I could have 3 kilotons of beans and eat like a beast of beans. And also that would be right. So a lot of these sayings and interpretations would be very, very vague, very, very random. They wouldn't necessarily answer your question. They kind of would, but it would scoot the truth.
It'd be up for interpretation.
Even the interpretation would be up for interpretation from a certain point of view. So
right.
But hey,
so
man, they believed
what that sounds like?
What you got?
That sounds like this character in the Wheel of Time known as Min, who is able to see pictures basically above people's heads. And these pictures or visions, they can be in motion. Sometimes they're very obvious. Like, their head is chopped. Their head is rolling on the ground. Oh, they're going to die.
Right.
Okay.
That's pretty obvious, yep.
But others are not. She has a vision of a chain above somebody's head. And it's like, what does that mean? But someone who is an expert in reading omens is able to say, oh, this person is chained to another person, and they're only supposed to serve me, so they must be the traitor. So that's what it means. So, and that is what it meant in this story, in the story. But she didn't know that, is my point. So she gave this vague up for interpretation vision, like you're saying. He has a chain above his head, Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, yeah, a chain could mean that you're linked to someone else, right? But couldn't the chain also be a symbol of his loyalty to her?
Right.
So again, it's exactly like you said. These are up for interpretation.
The interpretation's even up for interpretation.
Right.
So I'm going to get into 2 folk that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't. I don't know, maybe. Well, 3 people, really. So first one, and you got to remember, Apollo is like the main god of divination, right? He's got a whole hell of a lot of things associated with him. Health being 1, prophecy being 2. So we went over Apollo in what episode?
I apologize, audience. Cat attack. Just a second, please.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just keep going. I like to talk anyway. So I got cats too. They're just out of the room right now, so you may or may not see mine. But a lot of the prophecies will come from Apollo. You're good to go?
Back to Apollo.
Yeah, good. So one of them is his son, Aeschylus. And you would literally go to him and ask for healing, or will this person recover, or good health. Super famous in Greece, like everybody would go there. Super well known. All about health and Apollo. Second one is Cassandra. She's kind of special in many ways. So she is mortal. It's kind of important. She was a princess of Troy. Could have heard of her, King Priam. The story of Troy and everything. He had a few kids, 100 of them. So she had lots of bros, lots of sisters. Priam and Hector Priam was her dad. Hector and Paris were 2 of her brothers. And she had a twin. I'll say he's irrelevant. He's not, but for my purposes, I don't care about him. So she was beautiful. Everybody wanted to get with her. You would think, oh man, mortal, princess, crazy beautiful. Who would you think is going to want to get with her?
Probably Zeus.
You would think. It's not. For once, it's not Zeus.
For once, it's not Zeus.
No, but it's his son Apollo. Apollo's like, this chick's mine.
Okay.
And a couple different stories. We're going to go with the one that isn't too gross, I guess. She's a little grown. And he's like, wow, you're super beautiful. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. He's like, you know what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to give you the power to see into the future. She's like,
oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness. That's an awesome gift. Thank you so much, God Apollo. I'm so happy. He's like, awesome. So, bam. Both stories. It's weird. Snakes clean out her ears, and all of a sudden she's got that power. Even in the super more weird one. Yeah, this one's not as weird. The other one's crazy weird.
We'll hold up just for a second.
Yeah.
So, in the Wheel of Time, there's a place that mortals can go to get answers for the future. They get 3 questions. And the people that deliver these answers, Theo, are called the snaky folk.
Right.
There's the Eolflin and the Aelflin. They're one of the two. Not going to make a fool of myself and guess which one. So I'm just going to go with snaky folk. And they're able to give you 3 answers that are true, but not necessarily the answers that like you
That's
can
what you want.
Not exactly the answers that you A, want, or B, will understand. It's much like will my crop succeed next year? And they'll be like you said, your crop will deliver fruit and you will eat. But so you're like, oh, everything's fine, I don't have to worry. And then one bean comes, like you said. And so you starve to death because you foolishly
didn't ask if you're going to survive the winter. You just asked if my crops are going to eat, or if I'm going to eat from the crops.
Yeah, exactly. So
very specific.
They're but nonetheless, they do tell you the truth. They predict the future true. So that's an interesting little correlation there that I just wanted to throw out real quick. So back to you.
So here's the sad part. Well,
oh no.
Yeah. So you also know how you're not actually supposed to do anything bad towards the gods?
Of course.
Yeah, so she does.
Oh no.
Yeah, she's like, well, cool, this is an awesome gift. He's like, well, it's not quite just a gift. She's like, oh, okay. He's like, basically, since I gave you this, you're basically gonna be mine now.
Oh.
Kind of like get married to Apollo, right? I would say almost everybody would be like, hell yeah, you gave me some prophecy, and it's friggin' Apollo, dude. He's like, maybe you could almost say he's like the number 2 god? Depending on how you want to look at it. He's got so many powers, so many abilities. He's handsome, shapeshifter, can do whatever the hell he wants. And she's just like, no. Straight up refuses him. And he's like, wait, what? Well, yeah, you don't want to cross the gods. So he's like, you know what? I'll teach you. And what you're going to do is now you're going to keep your seeing powers. However, no one's ever going to believe anything you have to say.
Oh, wow.
So she can see the truth. She sees it, says it perfectly as she sees it, and everyone's like, yeah, you crazy. Nope. Not going to happen. Gets a little more brutal for the girl. Not quite sure if it's just because she rebuked Apollo, but as you know, Troy kind of lost the war between the Greeks and the Trojans. So she pinned herself up in Athena's temple. And you're like, man, Greeks, they're not going to destroy that. Yeah, they kind of did. And then Ajax, the Lesser, kind of came and defiled her royally in the temple.
Well, that's unfortunate. I will throw this out real quick. So Min in the Wheel of Time, she talks about having some issues where no one believed her, when she was younger, coming up with foretellings. That's a little bit of a thing. But also, what's interesting is you mentioned that she refused Apollo's hand in marriage.
Yep.
Min and Rand, she refuses to get married to Rand. And as everyone, of course, knows, right? We did a video on is Rand Apollo. So Cassandra could very well be a small, parallel with Min. Yep. Not completely, not these really dark parts, but...
Well, not the dark parts. So, needless to say, if you're up on Greek tragedies or the Homeric poems, pretty much everybody that did like some crazy stuff in Troy also got punished pretty royally. So yeah, Ajax, Athena's like, oh yeah, you son of a bitch. So now you're going to murder stuff, and he murders like all the sheep, but he thinks in his mind the sheep are actually like his family. Really crazy. So he like literally murders all the sheep. He actually thinks they're his family. When he realizes he actually murdered all the sheep but thought they were his family, he's like, wow, I really wanted to kill my family. I'm gonna kill myself. Kills himself. Bam.
Wow.
Toast. So yeah, it's not without punishment for what they do. So Cassandra gets a little more crazy. So unfortunately she survives, she got brutalized royally by him. But she's a prisoner of war. Agamemnon takes her. Actually takes her as a concubine, which isn't great for her because, of course, she's also Priam's daughter, princess. So it's like spoils of war. Now she's like, cool. We got a long trip back to Greece, but we probably shouldn't go back. And he's like, psh, whatever. She's like, no, like legit. As soon as you like pretty much get back home, we're gonna be killed. He's like, whatever. So long trip back. She's got a couple kids by Agamemnon. She's like, well, whatever. We're all gonna die anyway. Yeah. So if you don't know, now you know. Agamemnon dies as soon as he pretty much gets back. Cassandra though actually somehow doesn't. It's actually pretty interesting. You think that she will, but at least at that time, she doesn't. At least according to the Iliad and the Odyssey. Kind of weird. In theory, she'll eventually die, but not exactly when Agamemnon does. But that was pretty crazy. So she's a little nuts in terms of oracles and famous folk. And probably the most famous Greek seer, Derek, you may have heard of him, because I think you probably have. Tiresias. Name sound
Lay it
familiar?
on me.
No? Dang.
I must have missed this one.
All right, that's all right. So he was blinded, right? So he was legitimately blind. How? Don't know, but Zeus felt bad for him. So he's like, man, You know what? I can't grant your sight back, which is kind of ironic because I think he would have been able to, but whatever. So he gave him the powers of prophecy. I don't know, right?
He just didn't want to, probably.
Yeah. So he gave him a different type of sight. Gave him the sight of prophecy. So
Sight beyond sight.
yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much Lion-O, man. So with the Sword of Omens. Interesting.
Yeah.
You know what? I just put that together. Ironically, I have a Thundercat shirt on. Love this. Love me my
Yeah,
Thunders.
Thundercats.
But I just thought of that. Sword of Omens. Huh. Prophecy. Give me sight beyond sight. So yeah, that's actually kind of what Zeus did for him. He's everywhere, man. He's in the Iliad, the Odyssey, gajillions of poems, and a ton of myths. He's like number one head seer of like Greece, like all sorts of different myths. But he gets his sight from prophecy, and people go to him to say, hey, can I get to the underworld? Can I not? Can I do this? Can I do that? And his stuff is always 100% on point. He doesn't need to lie. He doesn't care. He's an older gentleman. And yeah, he's everywhere. You see him in God of War. That's why I said maybe Derek saw him, because he's in some video games too. So he's even made it almost immortal. So as I said, Druids had this. They're the part of the Celtic religion up north in Derek land.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were supposed to also be seers and magicians. Mm-hmm. So they were pretty much very similar to Greek oracles, I would think. They also sometimes held political powers and were advisors to rulers. So very much also in the midst of everyday life, and you would consult them for different purposes.
Well, that sounds very much like the Aes Sedai.
Yes, it does.
They travel around offering advice and healing, and they quite often, every ruler in the Borderlands has an Aes Sedai advisor, I believe. And Camelin has an Aes Sedai advisor. I think they're the only nation in the south that has one knowingly, but otherwise other nations will secretly still have one. So Mayen has one, Verlaine has her own. So yeah, that part of it sounds like Aes Sedai. And again, it's the Aes Sedai. Their version of the future, of telling the future, is foreseeing, which we discussed earlier.
And I would almost go as far as saying the Amerlin seat.
Oh,
itself. Specifically. Because she held the power. She was political. I mean, you could say like the sources or the power is kind of magical. Or at least a set of magic.
Well, someone, spoiler alert, who becomes the Amerlin definitely can predict the future, right. But you haven't discussed that type of future telling yet.
Getting there. Yeah. You know where I'm going. But we got a little ways for that. So Norse mythology, they got them. They got these guys too. I hate saying Norse names, so I apologize. Mimir. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Guarded a spring near the world tree. Odin. You could say he's a seer, obviously because he plucked an eye out for the knowledge, and then he gained his magical wisdoms.
Well, check this out real quick.
And he also drank from that spring, so there's his dual-edged sword, if you want to say that. Go for it. Well,
check this out. So Odin, of course, does different things for knowledge and whatnot, like you said. We believe that Odin is mostly represented by Matrim Cauthon, most strongly. What can Matt do to predict the future? He basically has some kind of lucky spider sense. I'm not even going to explain that. And then on top of that, he has, or related to that rather, maybe even, when big crazy events are going to happen in the future, he is notified of this by getting a sound of rattling dice in his head. He doesn't know what's going to happen. It's another one of those, but basically the more important or life-changing the event, the louder the dice is what we're led to believe. So that's definitely like an Odin telling the future kind of thing. Also, the other thing that's related, You mentioned mythologically, Odin gives his eye for wisdom.
Yep.
In the Wheel of Time, however, Matrim, spoiler alert here, if you haven't read the series, this is really for rereading the series, of course. He gives his eye to free Moraine. And how do we spell Moraine's name? Moirai.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same way that you spell the Morai, which are the fates.
Right.
So there's like this connection there.
It's like a spider web.
A spider web. That's right. Exactly.
Everybody's like connected. Well, kind of like a wheel.
Right. The spokes on the wheel.
All leading to one. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
There's another
Most
Norse.
definitely.
There's a Norris Goddess, Derek. We talked about her a little bit too. Freya.
Mm-hmm.
She's a magician, magical seer as well. A witch, you could almost say. She would go into a trance, and she would answer questions about the future. So again, at least in the European cultures, I would say a lot of this has to do with magic, trances, divine insight. Also, a lot of times there would be a little sneaky in there and be very vague and very out there. I did mention the Hindu faith also has this in their system. They're holy men, and they are called seers or sages. They have, quote unquote, great spiritual powers, living as a result of living pure and simple lives. Don't know if you've seen, they're modern now too. They even have them in, I think it was on National Geographic. I think I saw something a few years ago, and they're just holy men. A lot of people go to them. A lot of people ask them questions. They get high as a kite. They eat their stuff, and it's quite potent. They go into a kind of like a trance-like state as well, and it's not as like debilitating because they're used to it. But the host of the show took a sip of their, I think it was a tea with leaves, like the cannabis leaves in them, and he was effed. He was like, huh, what?
Wow.
And they're giggling at him. They're like, man, he's all fucked up. And they're good. They're pretty good to go. But that was a riot. I can't remember the show, but I think it was on National Geographic. May have been on Travel Channel. But yeah, it was fascinating to see them do their thing, and I can only imagine back in the day it may have even been a little bit different. But that's even going on in modern India currently. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, let me back up real quick. Since we brought up Freya or Frigga recently, that is depending on what version we're talking about, the wife or one of the wives of Odin. And that would be interesting because in the Wheel of Time, Matt marries Tuon, but a more pronounced connection, she changes her name to Fortuana, like a fortune kind of seeker. And I believe that's the name of one of Venus's daughters. We discussed this.
Yep, Roman goddess Venus.
Roman goddess, right. So what's interesting about her, though, is that she can interpret omens. So that, well, at any rate, when you mentioned, I'm trying to think, you mentioned the three birds fly in the air. She'll see something like that and she'll be like, that is a bad omen, or that is a good omen. What's the most interesting thing and where she reaches her peak of power is when she encounters men and basically makes men her truth speaker. And at that point, there's this sweet, fortune telling combo that they have. And men will read somebody, which, remember, that's that trance, and you see an image, but you don't know what that image means. But then she tells that to Fortuana, and then Fortuana uses her omen power to tell men what her actual viewing means. And it's like true visions at that point. I don't know what else to call it. It's like killer combo, it's sweet. So when that happens, they read off these people. It's like, oh, you're going to die soon. Okay, do this. Oh, you're going to live to marry. Go to the front lines so that, fight as hard as you can. You can't die. You're going to live to marry. That kind of stuff. Like instantly it's like boom, boom, boom.
So Derek, question for you.
Go for it, man.
So you have Tuan.
Yeah.
Married Matt, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have Min who does her thing with Rand.
Right.
We'll just put it that way because it's interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's someone else that kind of gets with Rand too, right?
Well, there are two folks
there are
that
two
end up
other
getting...
folk. Yeah. So if you watch the show, and we're saying this is on the Amazon Prime show. So if you're like, oh, didn't she see Rand with 3 people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got Min, and we just kind of spilled that. There's one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another one in the show, at least, and I mean in the books too. We've already been introduced to this character, so there's another spoiler alert. Doesn't he kind of get with Egwene?
No.
No?
No,
Was I messed up?
it. You're no, but it's okay. The reason why you're thinking that is they did that on the show.
Yeah, they did that on the show.
No, so neither of the folks that he's gonna get with are
introduced
actually
yet, right?
Introduced yet.
Okay.
But that's okay. Back
That's
it
right.
up.
But he still has a
Back it up.
trifecta because Egwene does have a power.
Well, and Egwene is still very closely related to Rand.
True. Yeah, that was my bad.
That
was my bad. It's been a minute since I read the books. So, what may or may not happen in the show, but does happen in the book, is there's a very specific fortune-telling system. Dream walking, right?
There you go.
That's what I was getting at. I just got everything. I just got some facts mixed up. Like I said, not my forte. Thought I was going to pull it. Bam! I told you I wasn't going to trick Derek. He tricks me instead. All the time. So, dream walking. Native American. There's probably in other cultures as well. But essentially, you go into your dream and you strive to understand what's going on. It could be to create something, to heal something, to communicate with past loved ones, elderly folk. Essentially, it's a journey out of like the current realm into a different one. Many people have this ability in the Wheel of Time, the wise ones specifically.
Mm-hmm. They've developed it very keenly, but not all wise ones can do it.
No, not all wise ones can. Egwene's learning and learns to be pretty efficient.
And what's interesting, though, and I don't know if this is going to parallel anything you're about to say, but in the Wheel of Time, dreaming is one of the most unreliable forms of future telling. Like, not that the things don't happen, but it's just they're so vague. But when every now and then Egwene will get a dream that she knows what it means, just kind of like men, and she refers to these, I believe, as true dreams. I believe.
So, interesting part. Would you say that Perrin is a dreamwalker?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And his version of dreaming manifests very specifically. He's able to enter the dream, and he's able to eventually master the dream world. Before he does this, he has kind of these visions that open up like windows in the sky, and he can just see something. And these visions are sometimes abstract, but even then they're usually like specific enough that he can understand them
when he wakes up.
Right. Like So
That
like,
part's important.
he'll see this, he's like, what is this, blah blah blah. He'll wake up, he'll think about it, and he'll be like, maybe that's what this means, and then etc. He doesn't always know what those mean, though. I should say that real quick. Other than maybe he'll get the sense Matt is in trouble, Rand is in trouble.
Overall foreboding.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something to that effect.
You're
So,
right.
it's crazy. So, Native American dreamwalkers, again, they can go into lucid states. So, they can go to like lucid dream where they actually are in control.
Mm-hmm.
Then they also have different ones. And they have a little thing that they can partake in. It is illegal in the States, except if you are Native American. But peyote, there's a peyote ceremony you can partake in, and that is to help get you into the right state of mind. There's also different ways to get into a different damn, I'm having some real issues saying that today. Sweat lodges, because again, you're internalizing your physical manifestation into a trance-like state, and that gives you the access into the dream realm. So there's going to be more Native American stuff coming up in different episodes. This isn't going to be like the only one we're going to do.
Oh, I see what you mean. I was going to say
there's other ones, but go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah. I'll make it quick though. So this is kind of a parallel of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this. The IO wise ones, they have sweat tents. Okay.
Right.
Well, all the IO actually use sweat tents,
Yep.
but that's an interesting thing. It's like, that's very interesting that you would write about that. That's the thing that you would decide that these people would have as a way to cleanse themselves. Apart from that, the IO wise ones. Oh no, I lost it. I'm gonna throw it back to you. It'll come back to me.
It's all good. Because my next part was like, well, I have a question for you, Derek.
Yeah, go for it.
We said last week we're thinking that the Shanchin, from Robert Jordan's own mouth, says nobody can get their accent quite right.
Right.
It's going to be a Texas
Yes.
type accent.
Like think Dolly Parton.
Yep. Well, she's from Tennessee, right?
Oh, doggone it.
There you go. So it should be interesting to see how they represent that. So you talked about the Aiel wise men, right? Or wise women. We know that they're fierce warriors. They train heavily for combat. They're also very mystical. At least I interpret them as being kind of mystical.
Yeah.
What do you think that the Aiel represent? Like, what culture do you think that he kind of made them after?
I think that they are a mix mash, but definitely I'm going to list the obvious ones first. There's a little bit of Zulu warrior culture. But when I say that, I mean superficially, they have spears and they believe in like exchanging hostages for long term during raids and stuff like that. Also, this will be a big show, but they're literally in a way the chosen people. So that would be like a biblical reference of first Judea, but then later Israel. So there are those people as well. But when I really think about their wisdoms and how you have this clan chief / wisdom culture where the men and women kind of defer to each other, and you have these mobile tents and these sweat lodges and the dreaming world and their stoicism and their belief in, don't waste anything, don't waste this water. I'm being long-winded here, but yeah, I would say what I know about Native American culture really fits very well with how the Aiel are.
And by the way, I was just asking just to ask. I wasn't actually prepping you for anything, or I
No,
didn't have like some crazy answer. I was
no,
like,
but it is true. It is true. You have stone dogs and thunderwalkers, and these are Aiel names
Yep.
for their clan, for their seps, and they have clan chiefs, and then the wise ones, and they have roof mistresses, which the women own the household. They're like the head of the house, and they tend to that. And then you have the chiefs. They make war, etc. And I'm being very blunt in general, and this, I'm not trying to offend anybody, so I will defer to what you're going to say next.
No worries. As I was doing a little bit of research on that, I was kind of on the same lines of Native American for that, for the Aiel, mixed with other cultures as well. Because I got a big sense of that in doing my research for this particular episode. Mm-hmm. I'd also like to point out there's other people in the Wheel of Time. This one I know I got right. That actually can do some foretelling. Nynaeve. She's got the wisdom powers, right?
Yeah, very good. So Nynaeve has a very specific way of predicting the future, and she can, quote, listen to the wind. And yes, this is the thing of the power, but it's not something that all Aes Sedai are able to do. So what can she do? She can literally know when a storm is coming, but also she's able to sense storms of foreboding that eventually reach to theoretical or metaphorical thunderheads. And that will be like when some crazy stuff goes down, like a big battle happens, or so, yeah. So what do you, does that, how's that sound?
That's exactly what I was going for. I was like, let me get one of these damn facts right.
Good work.
Good. All right. Happy days. So, would you say Wheel of Time related? Would you say these are all striving for one particular outcome?
I'm not exactly...
Not exactly sure. Yeah, I said that really
awkwardly. How to answer that?
I was more saying about the dragon. Wouldn't like a lot of these all have to be about him in a way? What do you think about that? Even if it's like way down the road, or even like
in a way, I could just put it like this.
Or even the dark one.
In a way, the pattern is set into place so that Rand can step in and do his thing. And it's not... There's this actually, during my last reread, there's this lovely part of the book where Rand realizes that it's selfish of him to try to say, I'm the only hero, when all these people are sacrificing themselves for me. And he realizes, hey, that's okay, and they're heroes too. Just throwing that out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, yeah, everyone is doing it for Rand. Everything is leading up and culminating to what Rand needs to do. I don't know if that answers your question, but...
It does. Because I look at, and this is my own theory, and again, I've read them once, and it's been a minute, y'all. So I get my stuff fucked up. But... And he always reels me back in if I go way out there, and I'm like, nah, you're wrong, man. So the way I look at it is the wheel, in my interpretation of the wheel, I see it as like an old wagon wheel, right? It keeps spinning around and round and round, but it's got a main, all the spokes come into one centralized point. And my centralized point has two outcomes: the dark one winning or Rand winning.
Right.
And all of these different spokes that come in, and there's like infinite spokes, because it's not just like the 6 or 8 or whatever, it's like a whole bunch of infinite, come all the way out, come all the way in, and it just keeps spinning over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Hence why a particular Forsaken's like, man, this is bunk. I keep having to do this over and over again. This is ridiculous. No mas. I'm over this. Which is also interesting because, like you said, he has got like the fourth wall mentality because he actually retains what he had in the past, right?
Right. It's like
over time he remembers.
Right. It's like he doesn't take that final step of like turning to the camera and saying, "Yeah, I see you guys."
Yeah.
But he basically knows he's in a story.
Character, and he plays a part in it over and over and over again, and it's always the same outcome. And he's like, "Man, I got to do something a little bit different."
Yeah, it's very meta. It's like he went on Twitter one day and he saw the story from a book and it matched his life. You know, he's like, "Oh my gosh."
So the crazy thing is, I want to take this a step further and say I think he's like the ultimate fortune teller because he knows what's actually going to happen and he's actually trying to change the future.
That's interesting.
I thought so too. It was one of those, if you already know the outcome, if you do everything the same way, in the same pattern, in the same time frame, and then you're like, you know what though? I remember all of this. Let's change things up and see what happens. I think that's like the ultimate taking your own walk of life, so to speak. I wouldn't call him a dream walker, even though he can go there.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
got
he
crazy
most definitely
power.
can.
He's not a foreteller in the sense of like, oh, I can hear the wind, or I can feel the sensing, or the dice in the head. But I think he's the ultimate one because he already knows what happened in the past, and technically he knows exactly what's going to happen in the future if things go down the exact same quote unquote way again. So I think he's like the ultimate. That's my take. I don't know.
That's very interesting. And let me say that in the end, he eventually knows all the thoughts that Rand has as Rand has them. So it's literally at that point impossible for Rand to outthink him. So he's able to basically, show up and meet Rand where he's going to be when he's going to be and be like, haha, you said you were going to just forget about me, but
I'm here.
What now?
Yep.
Here I am. Because at one point Rand goes like, he's like Zen Rand. And he's basically like, you know what? Yeah, Moradin / Ishmael, we could fight like we've always done before, like you said, but like you said, we already know what's going to happen if we do that. So, you know what? I'm just not even going to fight you. I'm just going to go fight the Dark One. And Moradin's like, what? You dare? Like, he's like, I'm somebody. He's like, I'm not nobody. Like, oh, he gets mad. So, yeah. So I agree to some extent. Yeah, he really knows what's really going to happen, and that's why he pledged his soul to the Dark One in the first place, is because he figured out who he was. He figured out he was this guy that's destined to fight the dragon and lose. Basically, he's the fall guy. Yeah. He's the heel. He's the ultimate heel of time.
I don't know. That's how I look at it. I thought that was kind of a head scratcher and chin scratcher, and I was like, huh.
Spoiler alert: Theo's Moradin.
I mean, it did just get a little dark for whatever reason. I don't know. Shh, whatever. Damn updates on the machine. So I'm out of topic, man. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just a few things.
Go for it, bro.
I remembered,
you remember
like I said I would, my previous. So you notice how you said, you got to go to the sweat tent or whatever, or maybe you got to practice this chant or drink this water or smoke this substance to prepare your body.
Right.
Well, there are these rings that you can wear that get you into the world of dreams, which is that place where anyone can see a vision, essentially.
Yep.
or maybe not, but anyone theoretically could. After Egwene uses it enough, she's acclimated her body and she's able to get in without using the ring. So it's kind of like a preparation and then a transition. And the wise ones, they have their own methods. They're impressed that she's able to like learn so quickly, but that's because she kind of already did another method. So it's like she went to the sweat tent smoking and drinking, and then she got all messed up. And she's like, I'm crunk now. I see all kinds of things. What's going on? So there's that. The Shanchin have a strong, weird drink that only they have, that no one else has. If you read between the lines, it's probably Kaffee. They call it cough. But nonetheless, we talk about making weird, strange brews and that, helping this vision experience. And all the Shanchin believe in omens. So they all kind of see omens to some extent. So, yeah, I'm sure there are other things. But I think we hit up most of them. And I really like what you had to say about Balzaman/Ishmael. He's kind of seen, ultimately, he's seen so much that the only thing he wants is to have it all end and to be gone. No afterlife, just done. Done,
yep.
And I guess that is the ultimate, that's kind of like the ultimate want of somebody that's seen and done everything, right? So,
for eternity, pretty much.
Yeah.
Eternals.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys enjoyed our show on oracles, fortune telling, and other types of
dreaming.
Life. And I enjoyed doing the research for it. I thought there was a lot of similarities between the different cultures of the Wheel of Time and different past cultures that we've had in human history. So I thought this was really fun for me to research. I got a kick out of it. I thought it was fun for me. So hopefully that showed for you guys as well. Derek, any final thoughts?
Well, I guess we didn't go over we're doing fortune telling, but of course the whole Wheel of Time series is about a big prophecy that's made to come true.
True.
So I think that's worth mentioning just real brief. But please like and subscribe. We are the Heels of Time.
Excellent. All right, y'all. Have a good week.